Let's call the meeting to order. Shelley, can you do the roll call, please?
Yes, sir. So I have Board Member Diana Montgomery.
Present.
Board Member Lisa Brazil.
Here.
Chairman John Wong.
Here.
Board Member John Luz.
Here.
We have a quorum, Mr.
Thank
Chair.
you. Okay, so first order of business is to approve the minutes of January 14th, 2021. I reviewed the minutes myself. Do I have a motion to approve the minutes of January 14th, 2021?
I make a motion to approve the minutes of January 14, 2021.
I'll second.
Is there any further discussions on that meeting? Okay, so call for a vote. All in favor say yes, all opposing say nay.
Yes.
Yes. So motion is passed. Second motion of business is why we're here today, is the public hearing and consideration of case number V-21-01, a request for variance to encroach into the minimum required fronts of Highway 60, building setback of proposed miniature golf course, hardscape, and novelty improvements, and to allow the encroachment of existing residential garage to be converted to a commercial clubhouse with a patio located at 2001 West Cottonwood Street, also known as APN 208-03-182. Dana, do you want to give us open the floor up with some background and on this case?
Absolutely. Chairman Wong, thank you so much for convening this evening to hear this item. I appreciate it. I hope you all are off to a good year. As you mentioned, this is a variance request to encroach in the street side setback for improvements, and it would be a 20-foot landscape setback for novelty and miniature golf type improvements, flat work, as well as the conversion of that garage, as you mentioned, to a clubhouse and adding shade structure to it. So I have a presentation. Can you all see that on the screen?
Yes, we can see it.
Yes.
Excellent. Just to orient you with the property and the surrounding zoning, this location is right here off of the terminus of Cottonwood Street at the knuckle to turning to Tebbs. Here we have Ash of the Highway 60, which is elevated over the site, and then elevated above the Highway 60 is also a RV park. So here we are. It's really right along Canal Creek Wash. As you noticed, this is all C3 zoning, or our most intense commercial zoning designation. This blue over here is a TR, or transitional residential, and the brown you see way over here is the R2 multifamily zoning in the downtown. Just a quick zoom on the site. Basically, I've identified where approximately that 20-foot setback would occur on this aerial. And this property boundary was adjusted to incorporate this structure right here, which is that garage. It was historically used as a residential garage. I'm not sure how old it is.
Is that the green garage with the tan doors?
I do not know what it looks like today. If Ms. Menares is in the audience and is available.
I think it is.
Okay. Yeah, it's hard to see back beyond all the foliage on the Tebbs Street frontage. So I haven't been able to really identify what the details of that garage besides what we see in our building plans. All right. And this is the site plan. This line denotes the 20-foot minimum landscape setback. And basically our zoning code, the C3 zoning district, requires that 20-foot landscape setback adjacent to any roadways. So we ensure that there's always that openness along our corridors or vehicle corridors or pedestrian paths and so forth. And there's some landscaping that's softening and pushing buildings back away from the streets, which is not an uncommon ordinance to have. In this situation, because this property kind of backs up to that slope, this slope. I may have misstated the height of that slope. It looks like it's about 35 to 40 feet from the base of the slope up. And basically that slope was constructed when they created the elevated crossings for Highway 60 and Ash over our other roadways to navigate the turn heading west. So you see the improvements shown. Currently, there is already existing batting cages in that location. They plan to have golf holes, as you can see, which is basically flat work or concrete and curbing, as well as some elevated novelty structures displaying various different gimmicks that actually represent, I guess, Gila County landmarks for the site. And that's I think the theme or thematic basis of this project. Ms. Menares has been working on this project for, I understand, 35 years. There's a long history. She also owns the RV park across the street, and there was a long history of swapping or relocating what was the RV park at the site previously across the highway, up the embankment, and then prior council approvals. I mean, it's been 15 or so years, but they had reviewed and adopted an ordinance to allow for mini golf at this location. Again, here's that jog in the property line, or the adjustment of that property line to capture that garage portion of this request. And so obviously a large portion of the garage currently encroaches into that 20-foot minimum setback. It's legal non-conforming. I sense that garage was probably there prior to that property line being so close to the garage. I presume ADOT would have expanded their right-of-way at some point to do that elevated crossing and this large embankment that was needed to elevate the highway. As such, moved that property line down. I think the total right-of-way width in this section is about 250 feet. So it's an expansive highway right-of-way here, and it's maintained by that landscape slope that you see. So effectively, there definitely is that landscape setback in existence from behind the curb, though it is obviously within right-of-way. And those are the improvements or those encroachments that are part of this variance that you're considering this evening. And this is a close-up of the architect's drawing for improvements to the clubhouse, and they intend the red area here would be the improvement that they are proposing. And basically it's converting the existing garage for ADA facilities and clubhouse and or the office facilities for the property, and then a large outside area for dining or be it in the future concession. I don't believe that's part of this request to have that as a concession in any way, but it is definitely a gathering area with shade cover, and that's what's being proposed for that garage conversion. I just want to give you a quick image of what this property looks like today and what we're looking at. We're looking at this embankment back here. And you see, I believe, the guardrail of the Highway 60 elevated above. So we're talking about those improvements going in along this tree-lined area here. I'm sure there will be some tree removals, though I could imagine they're going to want to preserve for the sake of shade in the summertime. So that's the view from Cottonwood, and the terminus and that garage you mentioned would be just beyond the TEB sign back here, where I believe there's gates to the existing driveway to that garage. Then this is a view from above on the highway looking down at this is probably a 12-year-old, 10-year-old Google image when it was utilized as an RV park. And as you can see some of that foliage that's grown along that embankment to stabilize that embankment here, but there is no sidewalk or pedestrian visibility down to the site from here, and then obviously there's vehicular view shed here that you see. That portion, that 20-foot setback, I do not believe would be visible from cars traveling on the roadway, and the highway. Are there any questions on the site plan or details that I could respond to now before I move on to the recommendation and the findings?
This is John Luce. I was wondering if, is there still access for ADOT to take care of, I guess, the retaining wall or whatever you want to call the embankment going towards the property?
Correct. Chairman Wong,
Or do they have a problem with any of it, I should say?
Councilman Luz, no, so they had, this is all their right of way. So here's the property line. So ADOT has this embankment and their existing access to that embankment or ability to go in and maintain that. To my knowledge, ADOT typically only is interested when we are proposing new curb cuts or something like that. But as long as we're not touching their right of way, they have not provided any comment or request on that. So they just leave it exist as it is. One day, if it gets expanded again, right, there could be retaining walls necessary, and that could be down the road, but that shouldn't have an impact on that property, or it would be up to ADOT to discuss any purchases of property or takings and so forth at that time.
Okay, thank you.
Nothing further. I will move on with the 4 findings we have. As you know, to approve a variance, the board needs to find that there's some special circumstance to the property, dimensional typically, like the lot size or shape or the topographical features that are limiting the use of that property and deprives it from what it's zoned to be used for. In this circumstance, we recognize particularly the garage becoming a legal non-conforming structure today. That, like I mentioned, was previously a conforming structure until that right-of-way moved close to it. So an approval of this variance would actually legitimize the legal non-conforming nature. It'd become a conforming structure with the variance. So we'll be correcting a problem that was created not by the applicant, but by the highway expansion and ADOT. Also, as I mentioned, that topography is so extreme, that grade difference and that slope really does not lend to meeting any intent of that 20-foot landscape setback on the property owner's site. It would be nominal based on the amount of landscaping that's there already. So for that reason, we believe that slope and that topographical change and those improvements of the highway have created a hardship in this situation for the applicant and property owner. Also, we need to find the second requirement is to find that this hasn't been created by the applicant. And as I just explained, it has not been created by the applicant. I believe it's created by the ADOT. Thirdly, we need to make sure that we're not granting a special privilege to a property that wouldn't otherwise be applicable to another property. And in looking at this, and there are adjacent lots in a similar situation of single family homes along Tebbs, and they all have legal non-conforming scenarios, as this garage. So I'd imagine one day though, if they need to convert or expand those spaces that are within that front setback, you may see a similar request down the road, but nothing that I'm aware of or nothing contemplated. And then finally, so we believe that this does not grant a special privilege. It's just granting the use of this property or those portions of this property that are subject to the request. And then finally, the variance will not be detrimental to the people in the vicinity or create or cause a health or safety hazard in any way. And no, we don't see that. This is at the dead end of the road. We're on the bottom of the slope. Obviously, there's a guardrail to protect vehicles on the highway from entering private property. Staff does not find that there would be a detrimental impact to people in the surrounding area or adjacent properties. So with that, staff is recommending a motion to approve. Prior to the Board of Adjustment discussing a motion, I just want to cover the public outreach and comment that is a part of any variance application. And just to point out the process or remind you, when we do have variance requests, we do 3 things required by our ordinance as well as our statute, the state laws. Includes notices need to be sent to all property owners within 300 feet, which was accomplished. We also run an advertisement in the newspaper, advertising there's a public hearing if anybody has any need or concern to address this project. And then finally, we also place a sign on the frontage of the property for those who pass by and might see it and take interest and want to inquire further. So to date, staff has not received any comment. This was advertised prior to the turn of the year here. And like I said, no comment has been received or discussed with staff that I'm aware of. And then finally, this evening would be that last opportunity for public comment prior to the board considering this item. And so Chairman Wong, after board's deliberation or discussions, any questions of myself or the applicant, you would then strike your gavel and open up a public hearing. And if there's no one in attendance, then you would strike your gavel and close the public hearing. If there is anybody in attendance, we just want them to step up to the mic.
So I do see that, Ms. Lois, you and your friends are here. But for the record, I would say public hearing is now open. Is there any comments on this case V-21-01? You can.
If you could just state your name and address, if you have it.
My name is Lois Munares. I am the applicant. My address is at 316 Tabs, and it's my garage that is being turned into the clubhouse, so I have a special interest in that. The information that Dana has prepared and presented, I think, is very comprehensive. I have nothing major to add to it. A couple of minor comments is he mentioned the guardrail between the highway and the 20-foot, that big drop of elevation, and it actually is a chain link fence that goes the full distance. I just am hoping that this gets approved because I do believe, for the betterment of the community in many ways, that this project can be a help for tourism. It's educational, it's historical, it's also something that will provide a good, healthy recreation for the young people and families, and would be a benefit to the community and an additional recreational facility. I don't know that I have any other comments. I think he presented the situation quite clearly. Do you have any questions that you might ask of me?
I don't actually have any questions. Thank you, Ms. Lewis. Anyone else?
No.
Okay,
No, I do.
thank you, Ms. Lewis.
Right, thank you.
Do we have any other comments from the public? Then at this time, I will gavel in the closing of public comments and resume our regular meeting.
I make a motion to approve the variance. Variance 21-01, and improving the variance.
I second the motion. Is there any further discussion after we have the second?
Finally,
Just for purposes of the record, I do need to note that I do have a professional conflict, so I will need to abstain from voting on this matter.
Thank you for noting that. So at this time, I'll call for the vote. If you're in favor, say yes. If you're opposing, say nay.
yes.
Yes.
And I abstain.
Motion's passed. That concludes our meeting. Is there any? No? Motion's passed.
Motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn this Board of Adjustment meeting.
I second that. Thank you, everyone, for attending.
Thank you, Chairman.